city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Boyle with you as always. Jake's at the wheel, keeping us on the track. Coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this spectacular Monday, September 9th. Weather's going to be nice. It's cool. No humidity. Hope your weekend was great. Hope you had a lot of fun. Watch some football because it's definitely time for football. Opening weekend of the NFL. You had college football in week 2. The Indiana Hoosiers with a gigantic 52-0 win. Largest margin of victory in the history of Memorial Stadium for the Hoosiers. As they go 2-0 on the season, preparing for the big boys. The Buckeyes of Ohio State come rolling in to town on Saturday. That contest, Memorial Stadium, noon. I think that's on Fox. The Ohio State Buckeyes coming off a big win over Cincinnati where they blanked the Bearcats. I think that final was 42-0. Lots of games to watch over the weekend. So LSU and Texas, some fun games. LSU looked tough. But I'll tell you who's not looking so tough. Michigan picked to win the Big Ten by many people in the opening of the season. Man, Ohio State is looking like the best team in the Big Ten to me. They have looked solid so far with their number 5 ranking. They've lived up to it. That was a pretty good Cincinnati team that they just disposed of on Saturday. Blanking. That's what you got to worry is they blanked them. Man, Indiana didn't get to. Michael Penix was jerked before the half ended, and I shouldn't say jerked. He was taken out for protection, so he didn't get hurt. Before even halftime of this game. I don't know that I've ever seen that. Peyton Ramsey would come in and run the last series of the half and then continue through the third period before giving way to Jack Tuttle. But Indiana piled up the offense, 555 yards versus 116 for Eastern Illinois. Michael Penix went 14 of 20 for 197, 2 touchdowns. Peyton Ramsey, 13 of 14 for 226 and 2 touchdowns. And Jack Tuttle was 3 of 7 for 18 yards. When Ramsey came in to relieve, his first play is just a pass out in the flats to the running back, Ronnie Walker, who probably goes 64 yards for a touchdown. Crazy. Crazy statistics. But Indiana's got to get it rolling. This week, the Buckeyes come to town, and this is going to be this is going to be the toughest game, the toughest opponent I think Indiana plays this season. This team is looking pretty good, the Buckeyes, and they're looking pretty good early. That's the scary thing. Indiana's been working things out after the Ball State game, some tackling issues, some drop passes, and then Saturday. It's cool that everybody gets to play, but they're not getting the reps that they may need to prepare for a game like the Ohio State Buckeyes coming in. But it is what it is, and so we are where we are. Hopefully that they could get everything together. The biggest concern is going to be this offensive line on whether or not Indiana is going to be able to run the ball. Even though they had 100 or 555 yards of offense Saturday, only 114 of that came on the ground. Stevie Scott, Indiana's workhorse, only carried the ball 12 times. He got 64 yards. That's a five-yard average. That's okay. That's good. That's nice. So I think part of the reason they didn't get the yards because they didn't give it to him the ball much. They were protecting, trying to keep him from taking as many hits as possible. Samson James, he ran the ball 12 times. The freshman, 22 yards on that. That's just a 1.8 yard average carry. Yeah, it's not so good. Michael Penix had a couple carries, 12 yards. Ronnie Walker, only 3 carries for 12 yards. Of course, Ronnie Walker had that big 64-yard touchdown pass, catch and run for a touchdown. Donovan Hale even got a run in. He lost 4 yards. Cole Guest scored on his only carry for 3 yards and a touchdown. Even Jack Tuttle had promising numbers. 2 carries for 7 yards. 12 different receivers caught a pass in that game for Indiana. That's crazy. But the crazier thing is that with 12 different receivers catching a pass, Nick Westbrook was not one of them. One of Indiana's top receivers. Just worked out that way, but it's kind of odd in that with that many people catching a ball. But Donovan Hale, great game for him. His first 100-yard game that he has had in his career at Indiana. He had 5 catches for 110 yards. That's 22 yards a catch. His longest was 43 yards. Peyton Hendershot also had 5 catches on the day out of the tight end position, 52 yards total. He averaged 10 yards a catch, though. That's tough to do. That's consistency there, man. I mean, that is consistency. He is doing what a tight end's supposed to do, getting those 5 to 10 to 12, 15-yard catches. Perfect range for him. Great job. Walt Fillier, another good day for him. He had a run after catch for 28 yards. That was simply spectacular. He just refused to go down. He looked like he was down 2 or 3 times, broke tackles, and just made an incredible run. And also, what an incredible catch he made in that game. He had a 36-yard catch from Michael Penix where he just had to lay out and did. And it was just a beautiful catch. Ivy Turin even had 3 catches for 24 yards. Ty Freifogel only had 2 catches. Stevie Scott had a couple. But even Samson James, Miles Marshall, he got his first collegiate touchdown on the first touchdown of the game. He had 2 catches. Good for him. But you can see they got the running backs really involved. I'm counting up 1, 2, 3, 4. Four different running backs caught a pass. So that gives you an idea of the offensive scheme of Kalen DeBoer, really spreading the ball. Tight ends, running backs. Why? It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody but Tom Allen is going to get thrown to this year, I think, which is good. It keeps the offense fluid and moving around. Of course, the big question is going to be, can this offensive line handle the Buckeyes as well as this young, inexperienced defensive line? We'll see. We got a lot to talk about on the program today. The great Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, will talk about last week's game and the Buckeyes coming up. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosiers are going to join me as well. We'll hear from Todd Leary, if you missed that on Friday, and hear from Coach Tom Allen, his thoughts, questions afterwards, after the game, his post-game press conference. We'll hear from all that. Keep you completely updated in what's going on with all that. Indiana soccer, they had their first tie of the season on Sunday they were in South Bend playing Seattle. They beat Denver 2 days before that. Indiana volleyball went 3-1 over the weekend. The only match they lost was to Oklahoma, which I was there for that. A great match, though. I mean, Indiana lost the first set, and then they came back to win the next 2. And then that third set, they just kind of really lost it. It wasn't that close of a game before losing that 5th and deciding set. So they lose 3-2 to Oklahoma. But other than that, they come out pretty good. Another 3-1. They're, 6-2 on the year? That's not a bad start for Coach Steve Baird, so congratulations to those guys. Text into the show from Tim. I think Tom Allen taking Penix out shows you how serious he wants to beat Ohio State, not taking any chances with Penix getting hurt and being fresh. Well, he definitely wanted to protect him, especially you got a quarterback coming off of a season-ending injury last year in a game that means nothing, that was already out of hand early. So he definitely wants to – I would like to have seen him get some more snaps, to be honest with you. I'd like to have seen him get as many as possible to get this offense rolling. He looked pretty good, don't get me wrong. But with his inexperience and youth, I just like to see him as much as experience as he can get. But I understand completely. There's a fine line. There's just a fine line there. And I haven't seen him taken out before the end of the first half before. That was a little surprising. I mean, I knew we weren't going to see him in the second half, but it's good that everybody got to play. I mean, there was a lot. I think 74 or 75 players played in this game. They only have 85 on scholarship. I mean, that's tough to get an entire team into a game. But the 10 that didn't play, that's because they're holding on to them redshirt wise, or they would have played. That's the only reason they didn't play all of them. So, but hey, man, we got a lot coming up. A great show today, like I said. The great Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, is with us. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. We'll talk to him about not only football but basketball. We'll get to talk about it. We've got a visit coming up from Caleb Love this weekend for the Ohio State football game. It's going to be a huge weekend. You know, the stadium going to be sold out. It's going to be packed. I walked around a lot of the tailgating over the weekend or Saturday. Pretty much both. I walked to the south side, and man, that is the festive side. That's where the students are. They had a band on a stage in one corner. There was just it was just a party going on over there. Lots of fun being had, and then you have the more traditional tailgating closer to the stadium on the east and the west sides, and then of course on the north side, which is where I was. But just a lot of people having fun, and man, I can't imagine what it's going to be like this weekend. If you're going, you better get there soon. And I've got a great announcement. We've got a pair of tickets that we're going to be giving away. I'll tell you more about that when we come back. Stay with us. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, coming to you, of course, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former Hoosier basketball player Nick Zeisloff. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. You know, it kind of sounds like a funeral the more I hear it.
You know I work in a funeral home, right?
That's right.
I got
Welcome
places I
back
can
to
put you,
Indiana
buddy.
Sports Beat Radio here on from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Joined now by our absolute favorite segment of the week. The Todd Father joins us. Todd Leary, how's it going, brother?
It is going good. It's a beautiful Friday morning.
Hey, the last we talked, you were heading out to Victoria National for some golf. How did that go?
It went very long all weekend. I was I bet I put in more hours than any other person, maybe than the head pro or maintenance crew there last weekend, because I was there early and stayed late every day. I loved every second of it. Did
you end up caddying for anybody?
I did not. Nobody needed my expertise. I was pretty surprised, but
a shock. It's a shocker.
No, they survived on their own, believe it or not.
I can't believe it. Hey, we had a text into the show earlier from Joker. He said he was watching the 1993 IU Michigan game up against the Fab Five, I think up at Michigan. He said you got screwed out of 2 career points. It could have moved you up a spot on a you had a 1+1, and on the front end somebody committed a lane violation. And I said, who the hell committed a lane violation? And he didn't know. Do you remember that? Okay, I can't hear you, so I'm not sure if we lost him.
Sorry,
there he is.
I fat face muted you. Sorry.
That's all right. Did you hear what I said?
I think it was Calvert. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Calvert.
Really? Oh man.
I mean, he was a superstar. He didn't know the rules very well, but he was a superstar. I'm just kidding. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird timing. You know, the funny part is Coach Knight blamed me for that, for taking the ball from the official.
Oh, really?
Swear to you. Yeah. He blamed me for it because he said I should have been able to see, I think it was Calvert or Greg Graham. I should have been able to see one of them walking away from the line, and I shouldn't have taken the ball from the official. And I was, that's one of those things you're just like, yeah, you're right, Coach. I should have. What are you going to say?
Oh, man, it's football season. Have you been watching any football? Did you see that crap game last night in the NFL?
Well, this won't surprise you, but I started watching it and fell asleep. There wasn't anything to keep me awake, obviously. But, I love college football. I'm not as big of NFL fan as just like I love college basketball. I'm not as big an NBA fan. So I'm just more of a college sport person. We're
on the same page there. Lots coming up this weekend, man. As a matter of fact, I wish I had all the point spreads, but there was 3 games I was wanting to pick, and I was going to bet Buffalo Louis on it. Georgia is a 48-point favorite over Murray State. Would you ever bet a game that's a 48-point?
You got to pick Georgia when I'm on the phone, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, when you get to some of those, I saw I think Alabama's like a 55-point favorite. Like they're outrageous. It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
But you sure as heck wouldn't pick against them.
No. I think Georgia may be the best team in the SEC this year. I don't know.
No.
We'll see. Hey, another text in the show from Tim wanting to know, do you ever get spooked when I know you don't work literally at a funeral home. He works they own cemeteries. But if you're ever in a funeral home or at night, do you ever get spooked? And do they make a red IU coffin? I'm sure they do.
Well, I actually do work in the funeral home as well. We have both a cemetery and a funeral home. So I do work in the funeral home, and no, I don't get spooked by it. And yes, we have red IU caskets, of course.
Oh, there you go, man.
I don't like to bury the red IU caskets, though. I like to keep those pretty up above the ground. The Kentucky caskets, I'll bury those all day long.
There you go, baby. Questions asked, questions answered here.
That's right. We buried Kentucky caskets without anybody in them, just for the heck of it.
That's beautiful. That's perfect.
Thank you.
And I bet they're upside down.
Don't care. We kick them. We hit them with baseball bats before we put them in. We do whatever we want with those.
You can donate them to the local high school football. You know that on Friday nights when they get the before the games, they got the junk cards out there.
Bashing.
There you go. Perfect.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for this at some point in time. Can I put a disclaimer on there that obviously we don't really do that? I'm just kidding.
Yes, absolutely, because we are totally kidding. You know, surely they all know that. But what's your big plans for the weekend? Are you just chilling today?
Today is a work day. Tomorrow I'll be in Hoosier Land watching the football squad play, enjoying the day down there. Hope to see you.
You're coming into town. All right.
Yes, sir. I thought I might get to see the JC last night on his way back through Evansville, but it was too late for me. I was asleep by then.
Well, yeah, that game ended up going long. I was talking about it just earlier. You did the Kylie's soccer game. Man, they won 4-1, brother, on a team that had only given up one goal. One goal is the most they'd given up in any match this season. They beat them 4-1. Kylie scored the go-ahead goal and assisted on the insurance goal.
Sweet. That's 4-1's a blowout in that sport.
That should have been 6-0. They shouldn't have scored, and they should have scored 2 more goals. Actually, Kylie had a shot at the goal.
You sound like a dad.
I'm telling you. Get into I take the objectivity hat off right there when it comes to that. Can't help it. Indiana football kicking off at the 3:40. Are you going to get to come up and do some tailgating?
Yep. I'm going to be there early. I've got the whole day off. We're coming to see Benjamin, my middle son, and spend the day with the Raiders and Jim Coyle.
I cannot wait. Now, Todd does not drink, so you don't get to take advantage of the fact that this is going to be the first time ever they're selling beer at Memorial Stadium. You can gamble and drink in Memorial Stadium. How crazy is that?
Yeah, those things. That's a whole different world. I'm no Coach Knight moved back to town, but I know he's not going to approve of this.
Yeah, I don't think he's back yet, but yeah, he's moving back. No, he definitely would not. He wasn't a drinker either, was he?
Nope. I never saw or heard of him drinking anything.
Me either. But can you imagine a drunk Bob Knight?
No, absolutely not. The world did not want that. Trust me.
Heck no, man. Heck no. Yeah, there was some crap football last night. The Packers beat the Bears 10-3. Apparently, it was just terrible game. Terrible. But you're going to get to see Michael Penix in action Saturday, man. This dude he's pretty special, I think. He's last week against Ball State, he throws for 326 yards on a debut, bested only by Antoine Randall L. I know you're very familiar with that name. Remember him?
Yep.
But they've got a special team, I think, this year.
Yeah, I mean it's fun that they have a lot of hype going into it. I think it puts a little pressure on them, which is a good thing. I think they need to live up to for a few years. I think people have been expecting them to get better and see some proof of it. And I think I think they're going to see. I think Indiana fans are going to like the product that's out on the field, at least based on what we saw in the first week. He had threw some interceptions and had some mistakes, but that stuff you can definitely expect. I don't mind that. The fact that he has the ability to put up that kind of productivity is exciting and fun. He'll clean up the mistakes, but the fact that he's got the ability to put up numbers that put you right behind Antoine Randall L., obviously you're in a special category there.
Yeah, I don't know how much he'll get to play. I actually asked Coach Allen that question yesterday. How do you balance that? It's week 2, and they're a 35.5-point favorite on this team. So they're probably going to kick the crap out of them is what they better be doing, or they've got other issues. But anyway, you wonder, all right, where's that line? Because he's a freshman. He needs reps. He needs as many reps as you can get, because next week you got the Ohio State Buckeyes coming in. But then you've got that line you got to cross or ride. What's too much? When you take him out to protect him to keep him from getting hurt, it's a fine line you got to balance, man. How do you go about that? How would you go about that if you were a coach?
Yeah, I like the reps. I think it's one of those that I wouldn't treat it like a preseason game where they have like a set schedule on, how many possessions he's going to play and things like that. I would just kind of feel the game out. based on how it's going. And I mean, if Indiana's got a decent lead and he's taking some hits, I would, I would probably avoid trying to put him in any positions where he's going to take too many hits. But you're early in the season. I mean, you've only had 4 quarters of actual game speed, and he is a freshman, and you're going to be playing a different speed the following week. So, I would try to get him as many reps as possible. But I mean, I wouldn't play if they have a 30-point lead. I wouldn't play him much in the fourth quarter, primarily because if there is an injury later in the season, you're going to need someone to also have some reps under their belt, and so that'd be a good opportunity for them to do that. So, I wouldn't script it ahead of time. I would plan for it's going to be a tight game, and if you end up getting a big lead, you adjust at that point. But I'm not paid the big bucks like the coaches are, so I'm sure they've got their own philosophy on it.
Yeah, you and me both. A couple of great games on tap this weekend. Unfortunately, Texas A&M, number 12, Texas A&M taking on number 1 Clemson. Unfortunately, that's at the same time as the Indiana game, so I won't be watching that. But you got number 6 LSU and number 9 Texas that evening, so that should be a pretty daggone good game to watch.
Yeah, there's it's a fun schedule for college football fans because they start the year out with some beauties. So. Those should be great. I'll be with you though. I won't be able to see those, but I'll probably tape them and watch them Sunday morning.
Yeah, I'll do the same thing. Kyle Schwarber, former Indiana baseball player, had a big old fat grand salami last night, man. He's hit 34 home runs. That's a career high for him this year. He's rolling.
Yeah, he is legit. He's so much fun to watch, and it's just another proud. He supports IU and is proud to be a Hoosier, and that just makes you feel great when you have a guy like that still, takes Indiana so seriously and puts Indiana so high on his list of people that helped him get along or places that helped him get along. So it's you gotta root for a guy like that, especially as a Hoosier fan and a Cubs fan.
What's it like having a kid in college now, much less at IU? I mean, when you come back, because whether you want to acknowledge it.
It's expensive is what it is.
No discounts for former players, huh?
No, you know what? I was thinking because I had some extra credit hours that I could have used up in my scholarship, they would let me transfer those over to him, but they didn't think that was a good idea. So, no, we pay full freight like everyone else does, which that's the way it should be. We don't deserve any special treatment in that regard, but I'm just proud my son goes there and enjoys it and is doing pretty well. So I'm just excited that he's there.
What's the young Benjamin studying?
Anything he can pass.
That sounds like the Todd Leary plan.
It is exactly the Todd Leary plan. I wish he would have got somebody else's brains, but unfortunately he got mine. He's going to study business, but he wants to get into. He has the same goal that I had as a kid, and I wanted to be the general manager of a NBA franchise. And unfortunately, you pretty much need to be an attorney to do that, or have played in the NBA, and we don't qualify under either category. So he'll be readjusting his goals the same as I did.
How soon did it take you to realize that was not going to happen?
Oh, I didn't realize it probably as quick as you think I would have. But after I got out of school and didn't want to coach and didn't want to get into it anymore, obviously at that point I knew that wasn't going to happen. So, but you don't have a real good sense of reality when you're in college, and especially playing at IU, and everybody's kissing your butt and telling you how great you are for your whole life, and then you get smacked with the real world, and it's tough. It's tough, just like it is for everybody else. But I probably wasn't as mature as I should have been at that point, and realized I would have done things differently. I tell you, I say this all the time, but that's why our managers are so successful that were under Coach Knight, that were there, because those guys learned the work ethic. They knew what they wanted to do, and man, they stuck to it. And shoot, I think definitely in life after basketball, I would say our managers are every bit, if not more successful than the players have been, for sure.
It's a unique take, but there's a lot of truth to that, and those guys work hard too, man.
Oh my gosh, the hours they put in! I mean, when they get a job in the real world, they feel like they're on vacation because they're getting time off, which they never had for 4 years. I can tell you that.
Earlier when we were talking about burying caskets upside down, Tim texted in, Night's made for burying upside down.
That's what he asked for, wasn't it?
That's exactly it. I'm like, that's a great one, Tim. That's a great catch there, man. Yeah, that famous that was on senior night. I forget when that was, but that was after you were out of school, I believe.
No, I was there. It was either my junior year or senior year. It was one of those
was.
Two. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, that's hilarious. Hilarious.
Why they bury me upside down so my critics can kiss my ass. Yeah,
that's it, man. That's the most famous quote. All right. Brother, the Todd Father, I can't thank you enough. Love having you on. Look forward to it. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.
I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about tomorrow. I'll see you down there.
All right, brother. Have a good, safe trip, and look forward to it then. The Todd Father, Todd Leary, making his weekly appearance. Thanks, brother. See
you, boss.
All right, we got a lot more coming up here. Tom Brew from Sports Illustrated Indiana is going to join us next. Man, that's always fun. That was even more fun than normal today. We're in rare form. But it's Friday. TGIF. Todd gives it Friday, something like that. That works out. Hey, stay tuned. We got a lot more coming up from Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you here as always, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Great weekend in the books. Great football in the books. Indiana, huge margin of the biggest margin of victory in the history of Memorial Stadium. 52-0 over Eastern Illinois. Things change this week. The Buckeyes come rolling into town. And guess what? You have your chance to win a pair of tickets to this sold-out event. Courtesy of Jeremy Temple, attorney at law in Bloomington. He's at 101 West Kirkwood Avenue on the square, right by the cigar shop there on the corner. You can give him a call at 812-336-7229 with any problems you might have. 812-336-7229. That's Jeremy Temple, law in Bloomington. But pair of tickets to the Ohio State game. These tickets are hard to come by, folks. And I'm trying to think of an easy way for everybody to enter. This is going to be a free-for-all here. Everybody's we over the weekend we were fortunate to get a couple of tickets for a family or get an entire family seats to the game. They drove in from Iowa. So we're very happy to have done that. But this is a different deal here, man. This is a free-for-all. Everybody's allowed to get in. And you can enter simply by, if you already follow me on Twitter, at Jim Coyle ISB, just send me a DM, a direct message, saying that I am a Hoosier. That's all you got to say. And you will be put into the drawing. We're going to draw it out on Friday, right here on the air. If you do not follow me on Twitter, well, I advise that you do so. And then simply send me a direct message that says, I am a Hoosier. You will be in the running for 2 tickets to the Ohio State football game, sold out. It's going to be packed. Now, if you can't use these tickets, don't, you have to pick them up here. But yeah, it's going to be pretty easy. Just follow me on Twitter if you don't already, at Jim Coyle ISB. I am a Hoosier. Just send me a direct message saying I am a Hoosier. That's all you got to do. And you're in. Courtesy of Jeremy Temple, attorney at law, 101 West Kirkwood Avenue here in Bloomington, Indiana. Telephone number 812-336-7229. Anything that you need, Jeremy's going to take care of you. But he's going to provide us with 2 tickets to the Ohio State game. How about that? That's a big game coming up. Can Indiana handle the Buckeyes? You know, a lot of fans, they've been on the beat the Buckeyes, and I'd sure like to see it. I'm just not sure Indiana's lines can measure up. We're certainly going to find out. The offensive line showed improvement in week 2. The running game, the running game doesn't have a lot of numbers, partly because they're not getting as many runs. I mean, 12 carries for Stevie Scott. That's not a load. He averaged five yards a carry. That's fine. That's quite sufficient. What you're not seeing, I'm not seeing any breakaway runs. Now, part of that's because this offense, a little offensive shift. There's a lot more emphasis on the pass, even to the running backs. The 64-yard run after catch for a touchdown on Saturday. But that's the scheme's a little different. So the numbers are going to be skewed a little bit. But let's hopefully the depth does not come into play. Defensively, there's some concern there only because of the youth and inexperience of Indiana's line. Trust me, Ohio State is not youthful or inexperienced in any phase of the game, and they're looking pretty good this early in the season. Indiana's going to have them at home. Of course, I'm not sure how much of an advantage that's going to be because I would venture to say that at least 30% of the crowd will be from Ohio State. All those empty seats you see a lot at Indiana games, they're going to be filled with Ohio State Buckeye fans. least the alcohol will be flowing, as we saw that in action Friday. I talked to some peeps. As a matter of fact, I didn't post this because it almost made me laugh. But the one guy that I did talk to that was purchasing beer, let's hear his interaction.
So tell me about having beer at Memorial Stadium now. What does it make it more fun? The game's more fun?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet. I'm the driver, so I'm just having one. I felt obligated to take one. But I think hopefully it'll keep the fans in the game, so it should be a good deal for everybody.
Are you glad they finally started selling beer here?
I think it's appropriate, yes.
The one guy I get is the DD. Are you kidding me? I was like, no. I just started laughing and shaking my head and walking away. I'm like, what? I get a guy buying one of the first guys buying a beer. He's the DD. Come on, man. Oh, it was just funny. Hey, we got to talk with Tom Allen after the game as well to get his thoughts, what he saw. And let's go to that and hear what Coach had to say.
Just want to begin by saying happy with our guys being able to come back and clean some things up from last week. I thought that they were able to run the football better, tackle better. Execution was solid on both sides of the ball. I think especially on defense, just didn't give them a lot of room to work, a lot of pressure on them, and kind of just suffocated them a little bit there. So that's a positive thing. And special teams continued to be very consistent, which was good for the Hoosiers. I thought there were too many penalties. Didn't really like that. I thought we were a little sloppy in some of those, so we got to get that cleaned up. But took care of business like we were supposed to, and that's what bottom line. That was our challenge: play to our standard, and whatever happens, make sure that we're getting better from the week before. So we'll obviously watch the film and figure out what we need to get cleaned up to get ready for week number 3. Questions?
You mentioned the penalties, wanting to respect Eastern Illinois. Do you feel like, though, this game was well-timed in terms of being able to take some of the stuff you really needed to get cleaned up out of Ball State and work on it in a setting like this where you were always in control and the score was always pretty comfortable before, obviously, next week and then as you roll into Big Ten play?
I agree. I think, we all know what's coming. So I think to be able to have a game like this after week 1 and be able to address the things that we addressed and to see them, improved upon, which is the key. That was real important for us, and obviously, every game matters, and their kids played hard, and our kids executed well. So a lot of guys got involved, which I thought was also very important. And I like the fact that we got to get a lot of guys touches on offense, and a lot of different guys scored, and a lot of different guys made tackles and were involved defensively and on special teams and offense as well. So, yeah, I think it was the timing of it's good for us. Now we just got to, keep moving.
How did you feel about Tom, hold on. Matt, and then we'll get you the mic.
Okay. Coach, I know people are going to talk about the opponent, but the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you held this team to barely over 100 yards. I think they maybe got 1 or 2 plays into your territory. Really dominated defensively. How pleasing was that for you?
Well, bottom line is this. They averaged over 30 points a game last year, went down to Arkansas in the SEC and scored over 20 points against them, at their place. So, been doing this a long time. It's hard to shut somebody out. I don't really care who it is, and so it is what it is. We play who's scheduled on our schedule, and just like I've always said, and don't take anything for granted. And so it was just a good, solid, consistent performance is what I would categorize. I'm not going to, make it anything more than what it was, but you're playing, a football game, and you got to execute. And so I've been in part of those games when they become very, very frustrating. When you don't execute and things don't go the way you want them to, and you leave there very frustrated by the way you perform because you weren't focused and you weren't executing to the standard that you've established for your program. So, to me, once again, I'm not going to overreact about the outcome other than the fact that every win's important, and we got better from last week. So we just got to continue that climb and make progress from week 2 to week 3.
How'd you feel about the running game, and did you see enough improvement there for you to be?
It was better. I haven't even looked at the numbers yet, but just from watching it, you could tell it was quite a bit of a difference. So, but at the same time, we got to continue to work it, and we're still kind of going through, and you don't have a lot of body work on certain people and what they're going to do, what they jump in and out of, and so. But I thought there was a better push that we need to get, and the backs ran hard, and we just got to keep working on that. To me, that's always going to be, a big deal. You got to run the football. And you got to stop it on defense. So that's a huge priority for us.
he only had one carry, but a Cole Guest had a touchdown on that carry. He's coming back from a second season-ending injury of his career. What do you think of how he's been able to come back with a lot more competition in that running back?
There's no question, there's several guys in that room that can do something with the football when they have it in their hand, and so he's one of those guys. He's a very talented young man, and so just being able for him to get back 100% and feel confident in his knee and where he's at, and we're gonna need everybody. We understand that, and so he's got to continue to get more and more comfortable with what he's doing in his role, and as he catches the ball out of the backfield and executes the calls and the blitz pickups and all the things he has to do at his position. So it's just those guys are obviously fighting and competing for touches and opportunities, and he's one of them.
With the way the game unfolded, a lot of guys got to see some action today, but also Michael didn't get as many reps. Would you rather spend a game where he actually played more going into a game like next week?
Well, just felt like it was real important to get Peyton some snaps this year, because of as we get into Big Ten play. I just think it was, I don't want his first live goes would be, in that kind of environment, even though he's played quite a bit. So I thought that was important to get him comfortable, and it's a new system for him too, even though he's been here. So I just think that Michael was doing a good job, and we felt comfortable with where he was at, and got a whole game under his belt, and then half of this game. And so I just want to keep everybody fresh and healthy, and the less hits, the better. And so I just think that those are, even with Stevie, I was telling the guy, hey, get number 8 out of the game, and so, but it's just a matter of just trying to get everybody comfortable and ready, and because we know it's go time here real fast.
Wop seemed to set the tone early, both with his running and with that one catch.
It was heck of a catch, heck of a run. Both plays were very impressive. You're right. I think he did. Our sideline fed off of it, and just the effort he gave on that run, and just was not going to be denied. Was not going to go down, and he's just it really hurt us last year when we lost him. I can't really say that enough. And so having him back healthy and making that kind of play that he made, on the big third down and the kind of throw that it was, but just those plays that just spark your offense, it changes everything, And so I just think that he can provide that. He's a guy, he's not very big, he's very strong, and he's got a ton of grit, and he's tougher than nails. So that's the kind of guy that we love here, and he's got a lot of fire in him too, So, but he's definitely one of our playmakers on offense that we need to keep getting better.
I know it's obviously not, you can't judge it perfectly, but I think it's 15 tackles for loss and 5 sacks from your defensive front these first 2 weeks. Is it at least as comfortable as you can be with it heading into Ohio State next weekend, given what you maybe didn't feel like you knew for sure about that front
I
four?
think so. There's no doubt. We all know that Ohio State looks a lot different, up front than the last 2 weeks. So I'm fully aware of that. But I think it's like anything else. You have to start getting all these guys in those. If you weren't getting those plays against these first 2 opponents, you'd be pretty concerned right now, So I think the bottom line is that we're seeing the progress. Now you got to go do it against a top 5 team in the country, So, but obviously we did it these last couple of weeks. Got to keep working hard. The scheme is what we do. It's what we believe in, and I just thought we played a lot more confidence today. I just wanted our guys to feel that and to get off the field in those 3 and outs. I don't know how many we had, and I don't know what our third downs were, but they didn't convert many on third downs, and that's huge. And to me, it's all about third downs. It's the one negative we didn't get a takeaway. So we broke that streak that we had going. But if we could catch, we would have probably had that one. It bounced off, I think, 3 different guys. I was going to jump out there myself and catch it if they weren't going to catch it. But that was our one for sure chance, to get one. But hey, some of those come in bunches. What I've learned. So, but the kids are playing hard, and our defense is being disruptive, and like I said, getting sacks and tackles for loss, and that's what we want to be. We want to be playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage of our opponents, and so we're not the biggest team on defense, but we got good quickness and speed, and we want that to be our strength.
Kind of off that about the defensive front, the guys seemed really active today. James Head, last year you guys started him at the bull position, moved him over, and he's playing that again some this year. How nice is it to have that guy with that kind of ability who can flip-flop and make plays on either side of the line?
It's important, because anytime you got a guy that's versatile, it helps you, and that way if somebody gets injured, you can, flip him over there, and certain positions guys are kind of locked into what they do skill set-wise, but he's got enough twitch to play the weak side in. He's got enough size and mass to play to the strong side as well, so that gives us a great advantage for him. And And we've kind of modified some things in our system to where we've kind of allowed a guy to play both spots easier, but not all of them can do it. So he's definitely one of those, and he needs to keep elevating his play.
You said you wanted to get Ramsey reps. Was there any thought to keep Pennington at the end of the first with a possible 2-minute drill just to get him used to that?
No, because I felt like last week we got two-minute situations that we executed really well in that game, and I wanted to have Peyton in there doing one with this group, with this offense, with new offensive coordinator. Just kind of, I thought it was a good time to get him in there. It was obviously a short drive, As a matter of fact, I was yelling for Ronnie to get out of bounds, and then when I realized he was, probably going to score, I'm like, no, stay in bounds, go score, So it was like, yes, no. But obviously it was much quicker than we expected. But he scored a touchdown. So, but that was the thought process there, was to get him a chance to execute it, in the game. He's done it in practice, done it in the past, but just trying to get both guys ready to roll.
A lot of guys saw the field for the first time today. Jack Tuttle took his first snaps quarterback. Charles Campbell had that tremendous kick, 48 yards. Samson James getting in the end zone as well. I guess, what is it like for you to see a lot of these kind of new guys really being able to get their first playing experience for the first time and see them getting out? And I guess, what did you like?
It's pretty cool. I hugged Samson and said, hey, congrats on your first touchdown, many more to come. And the same with Charles. He kicked a 48-yard field goal on his first field goal with us. And it was a little low, but it was still a great kick. That's a tough one, and got him a chance. Our goal was to get him. We were saying, hey, let's at least give him an extra point or two to let him kick. He's already redshirted, so at this point, that's in the past. And so having two good kickers, you're going to need them all, and he's still young. But just to have him a chance to go do that, and all these young guys out there for the first time, and you're just proud of them. You recruit them, you get to know them really well, their families, and they come here to make plays. And there's some guys we intentionally didn't play because we're trying to use their 4 games at the right time. And so there's some freshmen that some may have thought should have played or could have played, or why didn't they play? Well, that was by design. We had to talk to those guys and make sure they understood. They knew the big picture, what we're trying to do. We're just trying to be able to maximize those 4 games at the right time for certain guys. So that's where some that may have, you might have not, would question maybe why they didn't get in there, and that was the reason.
Mike, last one. Is there anything that stands out to you, positive or negative, about playing this game right before the Ohio State game?
Oh, I mean, the positive would just be just to be able to get in a rhythm of confidence from a week 1 opponent, and trying to clean those things up, like we already said. I think that's the obvious one. But the negative is you're not going against the same. It's going to be a pretty significant difference, in a lot of ways. So, but hey. We've opened the season against Ohio State before, so we went from no games to game 1. So it is what it is. I will continue to say, I don't make the schedule. We just adapt to what we get and who we're supposed to play next. So the Buckeyes are coming to town. Elio.
There you go. There's Coach Tom Allen talking about the exploits of this past weekend and the upcoming match with the Ohio State Buckeyes as they come rolling into town here this Saturday, Memorial Stadium. That game scheduled for a noon kickoff as it's on Fox television. A little less time to tailgate. People got to do a lot of that this past weekend. I hope Indiana got their beer sales down pat, because it's certainly going to get a stern test this Saturday. It was not that much of a crowd. I think it announced a crowd of 37,000 thereabouts. In attendance this weekend. I promise you, whatever the capacity is, roughly around 52, 53,000, that will be how many people there are. It will be packed. And don't forget, we've got tickets to give away. Jeremy Temple, courtesy Jeremy Temple Law Office, giving those away, a pair here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Just reach out to me on Twitter. If you follow me, just send a direct message. I am a Hoosier. That puts you in. If you don't, I advise it. And do the same. Send me a direct message and just simply saying I'm a Hoosier, and you're going to be in the drawing for 2 tickets to the Ohio State football game. Looking forward to that. Hey, coming up in the next hour, the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, is going to join me. Also talk with Mike Schumann about not only football but some basketball news. Caleb Love is coming in for a visit this weekend for the Hoosiers. And there's not a lot being talked about it, but I think that they desperately need to land at least 1 big, if not 2, in this class. I know they're chasing a point guard, but I'm looking down the road for for the situation, and I think that they just need to get that taken care of. But looking forward to that. We'll hear from Coach Tom Allen again as well. But the great Don Fischer joins us, and Mike Mike Schumann here in the next hour. So stay tuned for all that. And make sure you get that in. Follow me on Twitter if you want a shot at earning those 2 tickets to the Buckeye matchup. Joker texted in, the stadium's going to be invaded by Bucknuts. I'm not sure exactly what that is. No, I'm just kidding. So looking forward to that. Also a text into the show from Tim. It's nice to know you have Ramsey who can come into a game and can continue production. Yeah, you can. I mean, he was, 12 of 13 or 13 of 14. The biggest part of that was because he threw those really short passes, and it worked out because of the scheme. But a lot more to talk about here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Make sure you stay tuned. We're back with all that and more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio, of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this beautiful Monday, September 9th. We're rolling into it. A great weekend of action in Indiana football. Huge win, 52-0 over Eastern Illinois. Largest margin of victory in the history of Memorial Stadium. Kind of odd to believe that that's the biggest, but it is what it is. But we got through that. We'll hear from Tom Allen a little bit. Also on the program today, the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins me. We'll also hear from Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. So plenty of coverage. Got a little basketball to talk about. Caleb Love coming in for a visit this weekend, for the Ohio State weekend. So looking forward to talking about that as well. Plenty to get to, though, as the follow over the weekend. You had NFL started on yesterday. Tons of college football in action, but the biggest, of course, was the Indiana Hoosiers knocking off Eastern Illinois 52-0. Michael Penix didn't even finish the first half. He got pulled before the half was over. Just a total protection move on Tom Allen's part, getting him out of there when the game was out of hand, and he said that nothing good could come from it. I'd like to have seen him get some more snaps just because, but at the end of the day, his health is much more important than getting snaps in a meaningless game. He ended up throwing 14 of 20 for 197 yards, a couple of touchdowns, hit Miles Marshall for his first collegiate touchdown, so good for him. And then Peyton Ramsey comes in. His first pass he throws is just a pass out into the flats to Ronnie Walker, but it goes 64 yards for a touchdown. Ramsey would end up like 13 of 14 for 226 yards. So a good day throwing for them. The Indiana offense generated 555 yards of offense while holding Eastern Illinois to just over 100. Stern test coming up for both lines on Indiana this weekend, the offense and defense, see if they can get done. Men's soccer was also in action over the weekend. They tied Seattle up in South Bend on Sunday. I think they got a win over Denver on Friday. The volleyball team also in action this weekend, a big tournament, the Indiana tournament that they had. Oklahoma was in, Yale was in, Oregon State was in. Indiana goes 3-1 over the weekend, so congratulations to them. A good weekend for them as well. Before I forget, this Ohio State game is going to be sold out. There's not going to be any available seats. But guess who has a pair of seats for you? That's right, Jim Coyle, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We got a pair, courtesy of Jeremy Temple, attorney at law in Bloomington, 101 West Kirkwood Avenue. He's right on the square. Right on the square on the south side, a couple doors down from the cigar shop. If you need anything, handles criminal law, whatever you need. Phone number 812-336-7229. To enter for these tickets, I'm going to make it very simple. This is we're just going to have fun, and we're going to giving somebody a pair of seats to the Ohio State game this weekend. If you follow me on Twitter, send me a message saying I'm a Hoosier. You're in. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me and send me a message that says I am a Hoosier. And that I'm a new follower. Well, of course, I'll probably know that. But anyway, at Jim Coyle ISB. That's all you got to do to interview these tickets. That is going to be a sweet prize because these tickets are hard to come by. Hard to come by. A lot to get to. Looking forward to talking to Don this week. Man, he had to go through every name on the roster in that game. And that's going to be tough because it's names you're not used to saying. Talking about the Caleb Love visit coming up this weekend as well. Indiana trying to knock down that fourth commitment as for the open scholarship that Archie has available on the Hoosiers. Of course, Trey Galloway, Anthony Leo, and Jordan Geronimo already committed. They've got to get out. The one thing Archie has done is get the scholarships back, the roster rotation to – for about 4 scholarships a year that they're needing to fill, which is what you want. That gives you that even number each year. The one thing they have not done yet is get it done by position. And I think that they desperately need to add a big here. At least one, if not 2. I don't know if that's going to happen too, but I think that they really need to get one. Dawson Garcia, one of the guys they're chasing. Caleb Love, obviously a point guard out of St. Louis. They've been also trying to land a point guard for the last couple of years. And I know that they'd like to get that done, but with Christian Lander coming in next year, hopefully, if they can land him, that would solve that deal. But we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But a lot to get to. The big game this week, the Ohio State Buckeyes coming to visit. Looking forward to having Chronic Hoosier on tomorrow. We'll talk to him about it as well. But, yeah, this is the sternest test Indiana's probably going to face all season. But I'll tell you somebody else that's really surprising in the Big Ten right now, and you better watch out for them, Maryland Terrapins. My gosh. They kicked the crap out of Syracuse. Syracuse was ranked 21. I don't have the score in front of me. I should have pulled it up. They've scored like 100 points, 110 points on this season already. They have become a prolific – I talked about Indiana potentially becoming a prolific offense. Let me tell you who is. Maryland. Wow. What a turnaround. This is this coach's first season. It's an interdivisional opponent for Indiana, a game that I had marked down as a win prior to the season starting. Whew, not so fast, my friends, in the immortal words of Lee Corso. Maryland's about business. They're serious. I mean, they've had an impressive start, 2-0 start. Indiana will face them later on in the season. So that's a little surprising. I can almost see Indiana having, because that's a road game, I believe. Aren't they on the road, Jake? I think that's a road game. That's going to be very difficult. I think that may be more difficult than going to Nebraska, if you want to know the truth. Nebraska has not looked quite as good. They started out as the season ranked, which they shouldn't have. They absolutely shouldn't have. Pat Forty wrote about that, but I think Indiana may face a much tougher test at Maryland than at Nebraska. I think it's going to be a tougher game against Maryland than Northwestern. But, man, Maryland's looking good. That's down the road. We'll worry about that later. But, whew, how about Michigan? Not looking quite so good. Army goes up to Ann Arbor and gives them all they wanted. 2 overtimes. Michigan comes out and prevails. There were some squeaker games, man. Florida State got lucky as they could get. They played Louisiana Monroe, a team they should dominate. They allowed Louisiana Monroe to potentially tie that game until they shanked an extra point. Shanked the extra point to tie that game, sadly. Tennessee, however, playing BYU, another loss for the Volunteers. And they had the lead with like 20 seconds to go in the game. And BYU had the ball, but they had like 70 yards to travel. And they give up a touchdown. I can't believe it. And BYU would go on to win that game. Tennessee, that coach, his seat's got to be hot. Got to be hot. The seats will be hot this week are at Memorial Stadium, man. It will be packed. I hope they've got their beer and wine systems down. They didn't get much of a test last week. Not much of a test at all. And as a matter of fact, I talked to one gentleman before the game that was one of the first to buy. Let's hear what he had to say.
So tell me about having beer at Memorial Stadium now. What does it make it more fun? The game's more fun?
Well, it's kind of bittersweet. I'm the driver, so I'm just having one. I felt obligated to take one. But I think hopefully it'll keep the fans in the game, so it should be a good deal for everybody.
Are you glad they finally started selling beer here?
I think it's appropriate, yes.
It was such a popular thing that this guy wanted to be one. He wanted to buy a beer. He was the DD of all things, but he wanted to buy a beer to be a part of that. So there you go. You got to have that. Then beer's available. They're definitely going to get tested this week. I hope they are prepared and have plenty because that stadium will be packed and it'll be rocking as the Ohio State Buckeyes bring a top 5 ranking into Memorial Stadium. Indiana leads the country, I think, in playing Division I or top 5 opponents, along with Alabama. Which Alabama, you expect that because they're one of the top teams in, year out, national champion. Indiana, poor old Indiana. What does that tell you about the schedule they have to play? That makes it pretty rough.
They're second nationally, tied with Auburn and Clemson. They've played 8 top 5 opponents since 2015. behind Alabama's 12.
Wow. Second. There you go. We got that number. 8. 8 times Indiana's played a top 5 opponent since 2012. That's a lot. That's a lot of stress on a program that is trying to grow. Trying to get – man, when you're trying to get to that next level and you're getting beat down from the top, it's tough. And so it makes it a little bit maybe more amazing what is potentially going on in Bloomington right now. But that's something you can sell to these kids. Hey, man, you get to play the best of the best. And when you're doing that, you're obviously going to be on television as well. So that never hurts. But they can add to that this week. They'll be number 9. So that'll be in second place by themselves with their 9th game. Well, that top 5 ranking is not quite going to work, I guess, because unfortunately, Ohio State is number 6. So we could put all the confetti away and we could no longer celebrate that. Just kidding. But still a tough matchup coming for the Hoosiers. Hopefully the lines, offensively, defensively, that's the question mark. We haven't seen what this running game can do yet. But again, partly I think this is because of scheme. They're not dependent upon the run as much as they were last year for a couple reasons, because they're not as limited throwing, number one. And number two, they have so many more weapons, and Kalen DeBoer is putting those to work. So I don't expect to see Stevie Scott carrying the load that he did last year. He carried only 12 times last Saturday. Gained 5 yards a carry. That's not bad. If you could do that against Ohio State, that's getting something done. Absolutely. Hey, we got a great program coming up here. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, will be joining us. Say it again, Jake. Oh, yeah. And Don Fisher is going to come up and join me in a minute. The great voice of the Hoosiers, Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. And don't forget, giving away a pair of tickets courtesy of Jeremy Temple office in Bloomington. He's at 101 West Kirkwood Avenue. 2 tickets to the Ohio State game. You can't get them anywhere else, baby. It's going to be sold out. We get all that and more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle will be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hey. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former Hoosier basketball player Nick Zeisloff. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always, coming to you from the golf club here at Eagle Point Studios, and now joined by one of our favorites each week, the great voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jim. How about yourself?
Good. Enjoyed a great weekend and some good Indiana football, and one in which you probably got to use every name on the roster.
Well, close. Literally, I don't know that we've ever had 74 players play in a football game at Indiana, but we had at least 74 in this contest. It was unbelievable how many players did get an opportunity to perform. Tom Allen, of course, calling off the Dogs near halftime because Indiana was already dominating the football game. It was just a really nice performance by this Indiana football team. Picking up a much different type of performance than they had the week before against Ball State up at Lucas Oil Stadium. Eastern Illinois, let's face facts here, Jim, before we go any further, not a very talented football team, one that's under a new coach who's trying to establish his team, played a lot of freshmen on their roster, and they struggle certainly at the level of which Indiana plays in the Big Ten. They play out of the Ohio Valley Conference, so they're not a league that's comparable in any way, shape, or form, and the talent level is not nearly as good. So for Indiana to beat them like they did, that should have been expected, and I think it was, and Indiana did exactly what it was expected to do. So that's the good news, without question. The bad news is now they step out of the frying pan and into the fire next week because they take on Ohio State. But nevertheless, you enjoy this one while you can.
Absolutely. I don't know that I've ever seen a quarterback pulled before halftime before, and we saw that the other day.
Well, no doubt. Michael Penix literally was pulled before halftime. Peyton Ramsey came in and ran the last series offensively for Indiana in the first half, and, of course, immediately scored a touchdown as he dumped the pass off to Walker kid, and Ronnie Walker came up with a terrific 64-yard run down the sideline that made the score 35-0 at halftime. So Peyton came in, did a really nice job while he was in there. As everybody knows, he, of course, was a starter for a couple of years prior to Michael Penix taking over this season. But Peyton was 13 of 14 and for 226 yards and 2 touchdowns. His statistics were much better than Michael Penix's because Penix was 14 of 20 for 197. That said, Indiana played terrific football on Saturday, at least from a passing attack standpoint. And I guess I've been sounding this alarm for a couple of weeks now, and I'm continuing to do so because it still, I think, is a big concern for this Indiana football team, and that's the running attack. It has not lived up to expectations at this point in the season. Saturday against Eastern Illinois, they ran 34 times. They only gained 114 yards out of those 34 attempts. Stevie Scott had 61 yards in 12 tries. Samson James came in the ball game and had 27 yards out of his 12 attempts. but nobody else that ran the football ran it effectively other than the quarterbacks, and they only ran a couple of times each. So I'm not quite sure what to make of our running game right now, or of Indiana's running game at this point. They have not done a good job of, I think, run blocking at this juncture. I think that's been the biggest issue. This offensive line, I think, is still much a question mark when it comes to run blocking. Buck said after watching the film of the Ball State game that Indiana did a tremendous job of pass blocking, but the run blocking just wasn't up to speed, and we didn't see that again on Saturday. So if there was a big concern in my mind going into Week 3 against one of the best teams in the country, Ohio State, is that Indiana better find a running game before Saturday or things could be a real problem.
Yeah, the passing game has been so good, over 400 yards this past Saturday. But like you've talked about, the running game has not been there. And when you play a team like Ohio State, you're not going to probably throw for 400 yards in that game necessarily. And you can't rely on that. And this is a lot. The line's going to be bigger, faster, stronger. These guys, they've been tested, but they're about to get their sternest test of the season.
Well, no question, and if there has been a major improvement, at least in the early part of the season for Ohio State this year over last, it would be on the defensive side of the football. They shut out a really good Cincinnati team this past week, 42-0, and the defense was swarming. They have really, I don't know if the talent is upgraded as you would expect. I mean, I don't know if that's the reason why they're so much better. I just think that their system has gotten better, and what they're doing defensively has just improved dramatically. So we've always thought that Ohio State is easily the most talented team in the Big Ten. I think that's been the case for many years now, and this team is no different. The difference is they are playing so much better with so much more intensity on the defensive side of the football. You don't shut out a team like Cincinnati 42-0 without playing some tremendous defense, and they certainly did that on Saturday. And Indiana's going to have to find a way to dent that defense somehow with whatever their attack is going to bring forth. And part of that, I think, is going to have to be an effective running game.
Absolutely. We saw how the Big Ten can you never know. Everybody's thought Michigan is going to be the team to beat this year, and they've got to struggle this year. Our good friend Greg Kennard, who left the Indiana Media Relations Department, went to become the head media relations person for football for Army. He must have brought him some luck, but Michigan had a tough time with Army, 2 overtimes this past weekend.
Yep, no question, and without a doubt, I mean they've been talking about Michigan and the offense and how much better it's gotten, that type of thing. Well, Army proved that they could hang with them, and that's obviously a good thing from a Big Ten perspective. It makes you feel like there's some chinks in that armor, so to speak. But Ohio State hasn't showed any of those, and the Buckeyes' offense is running just as good offensively as they were a year ago under Dwayne Haskins at quarterback with Justin Fields, who's a transfer from Georgia, and he's been terrific in the first 2 ball games. He has completed 38 of his 50 passes, 76% of his passes for 458 yards and 6 touchdowns. Obviously, this kid has got some tools, and the receiving core is terrific. KJ Hill, along with Benjamin Victor. Those 2 guys are terrific receivers. And look, let's face facts here. This Ohio State team has dominated just about everybody they played over the years, not the least of which has been Indiana. The difference has been here in the last 8 years or so for IU that they have competed with Ohio State. Even though they haven't been able to beat them, they've competed with them. And you want to see that to continue this week, but you'd like to see Indiana somehow find a way to finish a ball game against the Buckeyes. In every one of these 8 ball games over the last 8 years or 9 years, whatever it's been, Kevin Wilson's years and then Tom Allen's years, Indiana has been able to compete through 3 quarters of the football game. And then the 4th quarter, they just kind of falls off the table because they don't have either the depth or the strength to overcome what Ohio State brings to the table. I don't know if Indiana still has that yet or not, but we're going to find out Saturday because, like I said, they're going to face a team that is playing at the top of their game early in the season, and that's also a bit unusual for a team to play this well at both sides of the football this early.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Man, they're playing so good already. And this is probably the toughest team Indiana's going to play. From what I've seen so far in this early season, this is the toughest game on their entire schedule. And open Big Ten play with it. It's got to be difficult. And on top of that, usually you have 3 non-conference games before you get into conference play. This year they've kind of jumbled about. And they're going to have to place Ohio State early. A little bit of misfortune maybe, but they're going to have to be ready Saturday. And having a game before Ohio State, Don, would you have rather seen a game where Michael Penix got to play a little bit more, that they needed him to play just to get the snaps?
Well, I can't fault Tom Allen for what he did on Saturday. That's the thing he needed to do, and without question, you would like to have seen a little tougher competition than what Eastern Illinois was able to put out there in the field against Indiana. At the same time, you want this team to go in feeling very confident. And so from that perspective, I think Indiana will. They're going to have a chip in their shoulder. They know they're going to have to play their best football game of the year. And that may be the case 3 or 4 more times this year if they're going to win any of these ball games. But that said, this is a football team that is more talented, I think, than Indiana's had in several years, especially on the defensive side. The offensive side, again, much of a question mark because of the running attack at this juncture that hasn't materialized. So we're just going to have to wait to see how it all plays out. My concern at this juncture is the run game and being able to be a little more versatile with the play calling, because I think Kalen DeBoer has done a terrific job of orchestrating this offense thus far. But again, when you don't execute with the run blocking and the run game itself, I think it's going to cause you to be a one-dimensional team, and that one-dimensional team is not going to beat a team like Ohio State.
Yeah, there was a couple things that stood out to me as ironic on Saturday. 12 different receivers caught a pass, but none of them was Nick Westbrook. A little surprising on that.
Well, I agree. And again, I think it was the type of game that it was and what was there and what was available, that type of thing. Here's the other thing that was kind of ironic in this ball game, or not ironic, but unusual. 9 different players scored in this game for Indiana.
Wow, I didn't realize
9. 7 touchdowns and 2 kickers. So it's amazing in the sense of what, I mean, again, 74 Indiana players to my count is how many guys got off the bench and got to play in this football game. So you saw a lot of kids out there getting an opportunity, getting some success after the hard work they put in practice. Those guys that don't get to play very much or don't get to play at all, some of those guys got their first opportunity on a college football field, and a couple of them were seniors, so and fifth-year seniors at that. So, you had to feel good for these kids that got an opportunity to play. So all I can tell you at this juncture is, I would have liked to seen Indiana play a tougher opponent in game 2 and give Michael Penix more opportunity, but at the same time, I also appreciate how it happened and why it happened the way it did. And to take advantage of that for a lot of players in your football team, I think is a great positive and a motivational factor.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One other ironic thing is Indiana's getting the takeaway streak ended in a game that because they were so dominant.
Right. Yeah, they had no interceptions and they had no forced fumbles in this ball game, or no takeaways in this contest. So. Again, that is ironic. Indiana had the longest streak in the country at 19 games, I believe, going in.
Now, when you go into a game like this is going to be a first start for Michael Penix in a Big Ten game like this. But he has shown he's more than ready to lead this offense. And if they can get the running game going, I think that they can battle with Ohio State. But as we've talked about, that's going to be a critical issue for them. And I don't understand completely why, because this line seems to be pretty talented. And I think I don't know if it's just timing or what it is getting used to on this season, but they've got to get it ready and quickly.
Well, I agree with that. I'm not as adverse to, or not. I'm not sitting here. I don't want to just downplay the line, the offensive line, and be negative about them. I just don't know how talented they are. Number one, I know that they're not deep. That's one of the big things right now. This offensive line is going to have to play a lot of snaps. If you looked at what Indiana did in the Eastern Illinois ball game, once they didn't have the starters in there, they weren't very effective. I mean, Jack Tuttle came in, and he couldn't get anything done because the offensive line couldn't protect him, and obviously they were coming in on him like gangbusters, and, of course, the run game went nowhere when that group was in there. So the backups for this football team aren't there right now, and they've got a lot of work to do to improve that aspect of it, but the starters haven't provided a lot of blocking for the run game either. So, again, I'm not sure how talented this front five is. There's no doubt Coy Crunk's been around. This is his fourth year as a starter, and a couple of other guys have played quite a bit of football. Simon Stepanak, I think, has been solid, especially in the offensive line. Hunter Littlejohn at center, I think, is solid. But I think the other two spots are still a question mark. Caleb Jones is a guy that played a little bit last year, not a lot. He's at the right tackle position. And Harry Kreider at left guard, I think he's had his issues up to this point. So I don't want to downplay these guys, and I'm not quite sure why they haven't been able to run the ball more effectively. All I know is what the results have been in 2 ball games, and they haven't been good.
And on the positive note, defensively, and again, we know that it was Eastern Illinois, but Indiana only gave up 64 yards passing and 52 rushing. So hopefully that's been a sign of that young defensive line stepping up, because they're certainly going to get a test this week.
Well, there's no doubt, and let's face facts here. The defense, the missing 23 tackles in that first game against Ball State, I think was an anomaly. I think this defense is good. I think it's going to get better. It's still very young in a lot of spots out there, but it is deeper than we've had in a long time. And the one issue I think is still an issue is Indiana still needs to put more pressure on the quarterbacks. I think that defensive line, I think, has still got a ways to go in their improvement at this point. So there's still a big upside, however, for that group. I think the defensive line has a lot more faces in it now. I think they have more talent. It's young and inexperienced at most of those spots. So I think that defensive line will get better as the season progresses, and they're going to have to play their best football by far this weekend.
I agree, and I can't wait. Can't wait to hear your call on the Ohio State game this weekend, Don. I hope you have a great week, and get ready for the Buckeyes.
We're looking forward to it. Thanks a lot for letting me be with you, Jim.
You bet. We're great to have the great Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you here as always, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Joined now by our good friend Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. Michael, how are you?
Doing great, Jim. How are you doing?
Good, man. A good weekend. A great weekend for the Indiana football program. Of course, they got off on a big win over Eastern Illinois. We've been talking about it this morning already. But the largest margin of victory in the history of Memorial Stadium, a 52-0 win over a team that IU was a 35-point favorite, so it wasn't a shock. But still, whenever you see that come in completion and totality, man, a shutout and a big win like that, it's got to be good news for the Indiana football team.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you don't want to put too much importance on it because of the opponent, but as Tom Allen told us after the game, anytime you pitch a shutout, it's meaningful because things happen. So, I mean, I think it, even more than the score to me was just a statistical discrepancy, especially the yards. It was in the neighborhood of like 550 to 100 directionally. I mean, just crazy numbers that you don't see even typically when Indiana does play FCS opponents. I can remember some games through the years against the likes of an Indiana State where it was a pretty close game. So you don't take those games for granted. And while I don't think it necessarily speaks to what to expect for the future in Big Ten play, I think it's at least something to feel good about because I think it was a step forward from Ball State.
Yeah, when you pull your quarterback before the half is over, you feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, that one surprised me. I don't think I've seen that, especially not in the realm of Indiana football. I certainly expected Penix to at least close out the half, but I think Allen said he wanted to get Ramsey in there, which I understand, but I think it would have done just as well to start the second half. I think maybe more than anything, Allen himself saw the discrepancy in the teams and really didn't see any reason to keep Penix out there and get any hits on him or anything like that. I don't know if it was you or somebody asked in the post game, wouldn't you have liked to seen him get that 2-minute drill there to close out the first half? And I had the same thought. I thought it was a good question, but I think we saw what we saw. I think Allen had seen enough and was ready to move on.
I remember that question. What I actually asked, would they have rather this been a game that was maybe a little more competitive so Michael was able to get more reps, more snaps? Because people have to remember, he's a freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. He doesn't have a ton of snaps with this first team offense yet. And as a matter of fact, he wasn't named the starter until late in fall camp. So even then, he was splitting reps. So I was just thinking that they would. I get that there's this fine line because I brought it up in the presser earlier in the week, but you've got to worry about keeping them healthy and getting them off the field when you can. But it seemed a little early to me. I thought he should have finished the half. I'd like to have seen him finish the half, get him a few more reps because I'm pretty sure they're not exactly where they want to be just yet. But there's no point in second guessing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's something here, something there. could have happened at the end of the first half or beginning of the second. It ultimately doesn't matter, but your point is something I thought as well. I mean, the more reps, the better for a guy that is only making his second career start. When I saw him get pulled, my first reaction was, is he hurt? Because it was so surprising that he wasn't out there anymore. So, yeah, I think that's fine. But the along the line, since we're talking about what the things we were wondering and asking Coach Allen, the thing that I asked about, and I'm still interested to see, is how do you go from an opponent like Eastern Illinois to an opponent like Ohio State? To me, those are about as night and day as you can get, and just, every one-on-one matchup on that field is going to get so much more difficult. And, I know these guys are used to that sort of thing. You play different kind of opponents, but I think it's a major jump and just a major reality check for this team coming up next week.
Absolutely, and hopefully that they are ready as they can be, because Ohio State is coming through that door next week, and it's going to be the toughest, one of the toughest tests they probably have all season, because a lot of people had picked Michigan as the favorite, and they're not looking all that great right now. Ohio State's looking a little sterner, a little tougher. Of course, that stuff will be decided down the road, but I think that Indiana has the offense to play with Ohio State. A lot of people, you've seen a lot of fans, they've been predicting a win. Well, that's fine. That's just fan talk. But when you get down to the reality of the talk, I think Indiana has the offense that can do that can win that game. I'm not sure they have the defense yet. I'm not saying it won't get there. I just don't know that with the defensive line as young and inexperienced as it is, that they're there yet, because this is a big boy test here.
Yeah, and Alan alluded that too as well, that Indiana hasn't seen anything like they're about to face in the trenches against Ohio State. Not just size, but better athletes and just a more complete team all around. And even a team like Ball State ran the ball reasonably well against Indiana, so that was a little bit of a concern for me. And so that's probably, if I think there's one way that Ohio State's got a clear advantage in this game, it's going to be running the football. So it's going to be something to clearly watch for. And then when you play a team like that, depth is always a major issue, not just, guys wearing out in the second half, but also on special teams. I mean, the guys that play special teams for Ohio State would be starting for Indiana. And so, that's where a lot of mistakes happen. We saw that against Penn State last year. And so it almost takes a perfect type of game with maybe a couple takeaways that you weren't expecting to pull that upset, and it's been 30 years since Indiana's done it against Ohio State. So no reason what to expect that it's going to happen. But I think Indiana has shown through the recent years here that they can definitely compete with Ohio State. It's all about finishing.
One of the things that stood out that I thought was a little ironic was 12 different receivers caught a ball on Saturday in that 52-0 win. But you know who was not one of them? Nick Westbrook.
I wondered about that, because I had to go back when I was writing the game story and double count that, because I was like, is it really 12 guys that caught the ball? But I didn't even notice that Westbrook wasn't one of them. But today it crossed my mind, did Westbrook catch a pass? So I'm glad you're pointing that out, because I didn't remember one. And, I guess that, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, see, to me, that goes back to the getting more reps, getting reps with the guys that you need to be connecting with. I just think that again, I don't want to second guess, but in my opinion, he should have played the entire first half. I think they could have just continued to work on things. I don't know that it really mattered in that game. Maybe they're better off doing it in practice, because maybe it's better competition from what it seemed like on the field.
No, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I don't. Maybe that even went into it too. Is that hey, these guys are such a step down that getting used to what you're seeing against Eastern Illinois could even be bad for what you're going to see against Ohio State. I tried to get into that with Coach Allen on Saturday after the game. Is are there negatives to playing a team like Eastern Illinois right before because they're so different? And all he would say is that it's clearly a major difference, but he wouldn't get into the particulars. So I'm probably overthinking that one, but it was a strange decision. I think we can conclude that topic with that point.
Now, one thing I think that maybe they're, this is purposely being coy. Maybe they're hiding their hand. They're not. Obviously, a lot of teams doesn't want to show a lot going into a big game like this. But I hope that they're ready because I'd sure like to see them do the unexpected. We all would. But I'm not concerned about the offense that much, to be honest with you. It just goes back to the defense. Can this defensive line specifically, stop these Buckeyes? I mean, they have a great team. They put a pretty good whipping on Cincinnati over the weekend.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's a respectable program. I mean, probably through the years, not all that much different than Indiana. I think you can maybe expect a little bit more of a fight from IU. They're not going to get shut out in this game like Cincinnati did. But the other thing about Indiana that's concerning me a little bit is even against Eastern Illinois, they didn't run the ball all that well. I mean, they got good push up front, and Stevie Scott reeled off some good 8-10 yard runs. But if you look at the numbers, it was a major discrepancy in passing yards versus rushing, and so I fully expect that Ohio State's going to come in with that same game plan of stacking the box, making Penix beat them, and so we'll see how that goes with one-on-one matchups out in the secondary that Ohio State probably feels pretty good about.
Absolutely, and now switching, they're a 14-point underdog. The Hoosiers are to the Buckeyes, and I looked at the over and under. It's at 61, and I'm like, man, if I was a betting guy, I think I would take the over in this game. I think that Indiana can score some points. I just not sure how confident I am in them stopping Ohio State in scoring more points.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think if Indiana's going to have any prayer of winning the game, they're definitely going to have to get some stops. They're not going to be able to, in my opinion, they're not going to be able to play a game into the 40s with Ohio State. They're going to need to definitely find a way to get stops on defense or create takeaways. I mean, that was their calling card last year that kept them in some games, to get some surprise takeaways. So one way or the other, I think it was interesting that their takeaway streak was broken in a game that they won 52-0, and that was a coach being a coach. That was the one thing that Allen went to was our takeaway streak got broken and we had too many penalties. So you can always find some negatives even in a game like that.
Well, they got it broken because they never had the damn ball. Indiana had the ball all the time, scoring it up and down the field. There's no reason to take the ball away. They kept getting it back. Unfortunately, that's what happens. So a little negative coming out of that. But, there's going to have to hope for some timely turnovers, some stops and whatnot. But we'll certainly see. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great game. Switching modes now to basketball. Indiana, of course, has 3 commitments right now for the 2020 class. They've got another scholarship open. There's been talk that they may take even more, but we don't know who that would be. There's offers out there. But as far as visits go, Caleb Love is scheduled to come in on the Ohio State weekend. He's the only visit scheduled that I'm aware of at the moment.
Yeah, same here. I mean, Jalen Bridges was scheduled to come in early October. He's not going to come now because he committed to West Virginia. So, yeah, Love's the only one right now. I think they're on some guys. Probably top of the list for Indiana is Dawson Garcia out of Minnesota. That's a highly competitive recruitment, but I think it's one that they'll, based on some national analyst discussion over the last couple of weeks, it sounds like they'll get a visit out of him, and that's one that can go into the spring potentially. But I think Indiana, they clearly have to go to either a point guard or a big to close out the class, and you got Love coming in this weekend. You got Garcia, who's probably going to be coming in at some point. Those are 1A and 1A. Either way is a win. And if Archie wants to extend the class to beyond 4 guys, he would certainly do it for guys of that caliber.
Yeah, and unless I'm missing something, I've talked about this a lot, and I'm thinking, to me, the most critical thing is for them to get a big or 2 right now. I know that they've been chasing a point guard, but hell, they've been chasing a point guard for 2 years. I really don't understand why you cannot land a specific position player if it's really that important to you, number one. But number 2, if they don't land a big, that means 2 years from now, when they're next looking at having kids come in, the current front line that you have, Deron Davis, Justin Smith, Joey Brunk, gone. and possibly Trace Jackson Davis, and that leaves you with nothing. What are you going to play your front line with? All 6'6", 6'5" players?
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. I think that you're always running a risk of having imbalance in your classes, and if they don't have a big in this class, or to your point, even maybe more than one, which I guess they're not going to at this point unless they significantly oversign, then you are running that exact risk you talk about, and it's, you're going to have a front line that's very young and inexperienced, which, size is a little bit better. If you're going to be inexperienced, I'd rather be inexperienced on your front line because, size can, in my opinion, translate, length is easier to teach than, being the primary point guard and ball handler on a Big Ten caliber team, in my opinion. But I think the balance is the most key. And, I'm concerned about a primarily ball handler as well. You got Fennessy maybe being the only guy that can really adequately fill that role once Devontae Green leaves this year. So I think there's some major things to address, and that, if Archie's serious about going beyond 4 guys, I think that's wise because he recognizes that the guys he's got right now are not the guys that give him the kind of balance that they need.
Well, the guys he's got now are nice players, and they're fan pleasers, and I know the fans seem to be happy and enjoying this, but the reality is there are some problems coming up. And the bigs are a big part of that I'm talking about. You don't have the backup point guard that they've been trying to get for 2 years. Been talking about that. Now, if they don't get any bigs this year and they stretch it again till next year, that will be 4 years in to the program, to Archie Miller's regime, and he's going to be behind. He'll have all freshmen in the front line. That's not a good sign to me when you're that far into what you're trying to do and you're not there.
Yeah, and then you think about guys like Jake Forrester and Clifton Moore who both left that, probably weren't the right kind of guys for what Archie's trying to do, and maybe not for the Big Ten, but at the same time, maybe by the time they were seniors, they could have at least been serviceable. So, he's had some turnover as well. The guy we haven't mentioned that Indiana offered just last week at the point guard spot is a guy that's really intriguing. Actually, there's 2 over the last couple of weeks, Andre Curbelo and Carter Witt. Both guys that are what I would characterize as true point guards, really could step in and do what we're talking about here, be that primary ball handler that Indiana needs and facilitate the offense to the guys like Leo and Galloway and Geronimo in the class. So that's another potential direction that this thing could go. But I think they got the guys now that are kind of the foundation. But as we're alluding to here now, that they really need to round it out and get the right pieces around these guys.
Yeah, obviously the crown jewel of the class that they're trying to get for next season, Christian Lander of Evansville Rights, a 6'1" point guard, who ball handler, scorer, whatnot. He's a guy that they hope to bring in, but you can't bank on hopes, and that's why they've been trying to get this backup point guard for the last couple of seasons without success. But what happens if they do get this guy this year? Then you bring in Lander, the year after that. Is there going to be enough minutes for all those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, from Lander's perspective, I don't think he's going to worry about who they bring in front of him for 2 reasons. One, he's a 5-star. He's a top 15 player in the country in his class. So he's going to view any situation as one that he can step into and get minutes. But also, he's a guy that's a really good shooter. So I think, we've seen a lot of teams over the last 5-10 years that are actually playing with 2 point guards on the floor, and Lander's a guy that can play both on and off the ball and score effectively. So I don't think he's going to view, especially if it's somebody like a Curbelo or Witt, I don't think he's going to be particularly put off by that. I think, and in the short term, a Fennessy Lander kind of backcourt is really intriguing to me. So I don't think anything that Indiana does is necessarily going to negatively harm him with Lander, just because he's just at a different level than some of these other guys that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Mike, you got anything that you're working out coming out here in the next day or so?
Just going to really dig deep on Ohio State. I think, as I talked to people this week, people are excited about this game, which is good to hear. I think people, they want to believe, whether or not it's rational or whether or not it's going to happen. I think people want to believe that a game like this can be won, and it's driven in large part because Indiana's been close in some of these games, and we've seen this scenario before. Indiana's played in a lot of big early games against Ohio State, and they've kept it reasonably close. So I want to do that service and really focus in on the interesting aspects of this game coming up.
It'll be fun. It'll be a sold-out Memorial Stadium, so looking forward to it. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. Make sure you follow him. All IU content free to all. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Jim. Have a great run.
You as well, man. Appreciate you. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate Mike coming on with us. We appreciate having the great Don Fischer on, as always. Lots more coming up tomorrow. Chronic Hoosier, be with us. Stay tuned. We'll be back with all that for Jake. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.
No sense of humor, I'm still laughing like hell.